Today's session is a kettlebell flow, and we're just going to work on our connection first of all. So we're going to think about what we're feeling underneath our bodies and the floor. So we should be feeling it underneath both feet, underneath our lumbosacral junction, underneath the TL junction, underneath the both shoulder blades, and underneath the back of the head. And then we are just going to work on trying to get better connected with the floor. So I'm going to do some postural cues now. So we're trying to feel the weight equally from side to side under both our feet. So if you're feeling it more on one side than the other, then you're going to just shift the weight slightly side to side and try and get that weight distribution a little bit more balanced. And then you want to feel the weight equal on each foot individually, from the inside of the foot to the outside of the foot. So if you're feeling it more on the outside, just try and pull that inner arch down to the floor, but keeping the outer arch on the floor. And vice versa, if you're feeling it more on the inner arch, try and pull it onto the outer arch, but keeping that medial arch on the floor. And then we're just going to work our way up to our lumbosacral junction. So we're going to tilt our pelvis backwards and forwards. So we're peeling the spine away from the floor and then reverse peeling it into the floor. Peel it away, your pelvis goes anteriorly, so an anterior pelvic tilt, posteriorly into a posterior pelvic tilt when the spine reverse peels. And we're just going to tilt our pelvises backwards and forwards until we find the midpoint between the two end ranges, where the lower back is flat on the floor. There shouldn't be a gap underneath your back on the floor, and it shouldn't be caved into the floor. So you should be getting a neutral spine, neutral pelvis, back flat on the floor. And then we're going to work our way up to our TL junction. So the pelvis and the rib cage want to be parallel with each other. So what we want is, we don't want this open book appearance, and with the open book appearance we get this rib flaring and lumbar extension. So we want to imagine we're trying to pull our rib cage and pelvis together like we're pulling the pages of a book together. So we want a closed book rather than an open book. So pull those pages together, and that'll get your rib cage and pelvis in better alignment so that your diaphragm and pelvic floor can communicate properly when you're breathing, and then that's going to create a better stabilisation strategy. Then we're going to work our way up to the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades should be equal from side to side. Shoulders themselves don't want to be forwards, internally rotated and elevated, so we're going to retract slightly, pull the shoulder blades down into depression and into external rotation to get them into a more neutral position. Don't pull them right back towards the floor, because that's not neutral. So it's just into external rotation, depression and slight retraction. And then we're going to push our heads back towards the floor, keep the eyes facing the ceiling, don't take the head into extension or flexion, we're just going to push straight back down towards the floor. And you should feel those muscles at the front of the neck come alive when you do that. So after doing all those little postural cues, we should now be feeling better connected underneath both our feet, lumbosacral junction, TL junction, both shoulder blades, and then the back of the head. So then we're going to work on our breath. So put one hand on the chest, one hand on the tummy, and we're just going to think about our breath and try and get it in the right order first of all. So as you take a breath in, the hand on the tummy wants to lift, and as you breathe out, the hand on the tummy wants to lower. Lift and lower. So breathing in, hand on the tummy lifts. Breathing out, hand on the tummy lowers. lift as you breathe in, lower on the breath out. And the hand on the chest wants to stay still, that doesn't want to move anywhere as you're breathing in. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, through pursed lips, like you're blowing through a straw. Just a couple more breaths. Okay, so now we've got the breath in the right order. You're going to put your hands around your waist. We're going to grab hold around the front with your fingers, wobble the hand around the waist and thumbs into the back. And what we're trying to do now is to create a 360-degree breath. So as you're breathing in, you want to feel all these muscles underneath your hands, expand and push your hands away, 360 degrees. So the breath in, you're pushing your hands away, breath out, hands are lowering. So breathe in, expand, breathe out, and they relax. Breathe in, expand, breathe out, relax. And you want to feel this equal from front to back and side to side. So if you are struggling with feeling that 360-degree breath, just start around the front initially, poke the front bits. If you cough as well, so put your hands around your waist, cough, feel the muscles expand underneath your hands, and then just think about those muscles around the front, lifting and pushing your fingers away. Now put thumbs into your sides, and as you're breathing in, you're going to expand and push away. Expand, push away. Breathe in and expand, push the thumbs away. Now grab round into the back, so the thumbs grabbing into the back, cough again. Feel the muscles, wake them up, poke them a little bit. Now really try and visualise those lower back muscles pushing your thumbs down towards the floor. Breathe in, expand. Expand 360 degrees, try and tie it all in together now, just a couple more breaths. Okay, so you've got the 360-degree breath. Now you want to go upstairs. Now you want to think about getting your brace. So as you sort of day to day, all you need to be doing is breathing 360 degrees. So as you're doing sort of your general daily activities, but then as you are doing things that require more stabilisation, you need to be able to brace and breathe. So when you're doing things like carrying the shopping or carrying the kids or lifting weights at the gym or whatever it is that's more challenging, then you need to be able to brace. And so when I say brace, I don't mean clench or tense, or you don't suck the belly button in. You want to create an outward pressure. So the cue is imagine that you're farting. So you're going to breathe in 360 degrees, expand, and now create an outward pressure. Imagine that you're farting. Don't let the muscles relax as you're breathing out. Breathe in, expand. Out and keep the muscles active. Breathe in, outward pressure, imagine you're farting. Couple more breaths. Last one. So try and think about that breath the whole way through the flow. And then when you're doing something that needs a bit more stabilisation, you're going to create that 360-degree breath with that outward brace to improve your stabilisation strategy. So we're going to grab the kettlebell. Just going to turn my watch the other way around. Okay, so first of all, we're going to take the kettlebell in one of your hands, bring it to the chest, and then we're just going to push it up to the ceiling. And then when we get to the ceiling, you're just going to push through a little bit higher, like you're reaching for the ceiling. And then pull it down. So nice and slow and controlled. Push up and down. Push up and down. Push up, down, up, down. Do one more. Try and keep your wrist straight as well and fingers pointing up to the ceiling. Swap hands. So start in the chest. Lift and reach. Down. Lift and reach. Lift and reach. Do two more. Swap sides again. Hold the kettlebell in the air, and then we're just going to lift one leg in the air and lower. Lift the opposite leg in the air, lower. Alternate your legs, lifting and lowering. Keep breathing. And then you're going to take both legs up into the air. So you're going to create your 360-degree breath and your outward pressure, your outward brace to lift both your legs, because what you don't want to happen is that your pelvis tilts anteriorly as you're lifting your legs. This wants to stay nice and controlled. Up and down. Using your core to lift your legs, not your hip flexors. And then bring the kettlebell down into the opposite hand. Hold the kettlebell up, and then you're going to do the same. So lift and lower, alternating sides. And then take both legs up into the air with your 360-degree breath and your brace. Knees are clicking away. And then end up with your legs in the air in the 3-month supine. Swap sides again. And then we're going to do alternating toe taps. So similar as before, but we're starting with both legs in the air, so a bit more challenging. Trying to keep the lower back flat on the floor. And if you can, you are now going to take one leg straight and opposite leg straight. Trying to keep the lower back flat on the floor. If this is a challenge and everything's starting to shake, just go back to single leg toe taps. Or if even that's too much, just drop it down so you're doing 1 foot on the floor, single leg toe taps. I'm just going to do a few hip extensions, hip knee extension. Keep breathing. One more each side. Lower the kettlebell. Bring your knees in, give your hip flexors a little rest. Pick the kettlebell up, and we're going to, and the other arm, hand straight up to the ceiling, fingers pointed to the ceiling as well, and single leg toe taps. And then if you can, again, single leg hip extension. One more each side. Kettlebell down. Hug your knees to your chest. And then we're just going to take the kettlebell up into the sky again, and we're just going to do some rolling. So if the kettlebell's in the right hand, wrist straight, fingers pointed up to the sky, keep looking towards the kettlebell. Normally when we roll, we turn the head the direction, but we're going to keep looking at the kettlebell, and then punch it to the sky and roll back. Try and keep a nice stable body. So imagine you've got a Lego body, shoulders and pelvis move as one, so you're not just bringing the pelvis and then the shoulders, or shoulders then pelvis, and you're trying to control the movement so you're not just flopping onto your side. Keep your spine straight, don't let your spine banana, and roll back and up. And then from this position, from this 3-month supine, you're going to roll onto your side into lower oblique sit, and then roll back into lower oblique sit, roll back into lower oblique sit, roll back to lower oblique sit. And then from this lower oblique sit, hand flat on the floor and lift into high oblique sit. Down, up, down, up, down, up. If that's too much, just bring the kettlebell down into front rack and go up and down. And last one, and then we're going to roll, so we're going to go back into 3-month supine, swap arms with the kettlebell, arms up, and we're going to do the same but the other side. So looking at the kettlebell, so nice and slow and controlled. Couple more rolls before we go into lower oblique sit. Okay, so next one, we're going to go up into lower oblique sit and then roll back. Up, roll back. Up, roll back. Up. Now stay up in lower oblique sit, and you're going to lift into high oblique. Lower, lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower. Keep looking at the kettlebell. Again, if that's too much, bring it down to your front rack position. And now come up to high oblique sit Bring the kettlebell down, put the kettlebell into this sort of like goblet position, and we're just gonna bring the knees up to the sky, and we're gonna alternate from side to side with the kettlebell. When we come into this tall sit, which is this bit in the middle, try and make sure the spine's nice and straight so we're not flexed like this. So side to side with a nice straight spine, helping to improve your hip mobility. Last one each side. And we're going to finish in this tall oblique sit. And what we're going to do, holding the kettlebell, we're going to hinge forwards and lift. And slowly lower back down. Lift. So what you're doing, you're not just throwing yourself up, we're hinging and then using that lower butt muscle to lift and lower. Lift, lower, lift. I'm going to turn back round again. Lift and then turn into it. So if your left glute is the one doing the work, you're going to turn to the left and lower. Lift, turn and lower. Lift, turn, lower. Lift, turn, lower. And then this next one, we're going to lift and bring that right foot forwards into high kneel. So high kneel, we need our pelvis to be level with the floor, so we don't want to be all skew-iff with pelvis diagonal and one hip higher than the other. So we want nice parallel pelvis with the floor, nice neutral spine, so do your pelvic tilt, get it in a neutral position, hold the kettlebell, and we're just going to hinge backwards. Feel that down the back of the right leg, if your right leg's forwards. Nice and steady. Last one. Okay. Put the kettlebell into your right leg's forwards. But it's the right hand, and we're just going to rotate round. So the left hand's on the floor, kettlebell up to the sky, and then back round. And to the sky, back round. Sky, back round, sky, back round, and do one more, and back round. Bring the kettlebell down. So now we're just going to do some bottoms up kettlebell press, so make sure that pelvis is level. Turn the kettlebell up to the ceiling. This is why you need a light one, so I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to do this. Pelvis level, and we're just going to push kettlebell up to the ceiling with the bottom facing the ceiling. Try and keep the elbow as close as possible. Try and keep the wrist straight. very tough. I think I probably need 4. This is still a bit heavy. Do 2 more. Try and keep the rib cage down as you're going up. Okay. So now we're going to go from the high kneel into standing. So put the kettlebell, so the right leg's forwards, kettlebell goes into the left shoulder. We'll curl the back foot under, keep the pelvis level. When we're standing, we want to keep the pelvis level the whole way through. Don't want to let your knee collapse in or outwards. You want to track the second and third toe. As we're coming up, try and keep the pelvis level. Try not to let it shoot out to the side. Or as you come back, it goes like this. We want to really work on that stabilisation. And then, I'm going to come a bit further back. Right, pelvis level, lean forwards, stand, and down. Stand, down, really slowly. Stand, down. Then the next one, we're going to go up and push. So we'll do 3 of those. Down, push, down, and lean, and push. Bring the kettlebell down into both hands, and we're just going to do some squatting. Don't worry about the other side, we'll do the other side in a minute. So, down into your squat. Up and down. And then when you're at the bottom of the next one, put the kettlebell down. And we're just going to walk the hands forwards into bear, down into quadruped. And we're just going to do a little bit of quadruped rocking, so hinging. So we don't need the kettlebell for this part. Right, so we're going to tilt the pelvis backwards and forwards until we find our neutral pelvic position, neutral lower back. Then we want to work on trying to get our upper back into extension without losing the lower back. So what we want to try and get out of is this thoracic flexion. So we want to get into an extension position without losing the lower back into extension. So upper back only into extension. So find your neutral, and then we're going to pull the upper back into extension, keeping the lower back neutral. Active shoulders, and then we're just going to hinge backwards, hinging from the hip, not from the lower back. So as we go backwards, we don't want to flex through here, keeping the upper back neutral, in extension or flat or upright, however what you want to call it. We're hinging backwards, and as we come forwards, trying to keep the upper back flat and keep the lower back neutral so we don't fall into extension. And back, forwards, back, keeping that upper back nice and flat, hinging from the hip, so really try and feel the movement in the hip, not in the spine. Last one. And then we're going to, from quadruped, curl the back foot and feet under, so find your neutral, get your upper back nice and flat, and then we're just gonna have the kettlebell near one of your hands, just behind it, we're going to go up into bear, push the floor away, and so what we're trying to do is pull the kettlebell through. If you are moving the kettlebell with the right hand, you want to push into the floor with the left hand and the right foot to keep your torso nice and stable. So find your neutral, create your 360-degree breath and your brace, and you're going to lift, transfer the weight into the left hand, right foot, right hand down, transfer the weight into the right hand, left foot, and we're just pulling the kettlebell through. Trying to keep the spine completely still. Don't let the pelvis dip. Don't let your spine shift all over the place. Just do a few more. Hands nice and flat when you're contacting the floor. One more. Keep the kettlebell nearby, and we're just going to lower down, have a little bit of a shake off. Find your neutral again, shoulders active, curl the back feet under, because we're going to do some bear hinging. So we're going to lift the bum and we're just going to hinge backwards. So neutral, upper back flat, hands are flat, shoulders active, curl the back feet under, lift the bum, and hinging backwards from the hip. Try not to let the spine flex, and then come forwards, back, keeping back nice and flat if you can. Hinge you backwards and forwards from the hip. And come down. Again, have a little shake out. Now we're going to go up into bear again. And we're going to hinge backwards, walk the hands back, and pick up the kettlebell. So you're in your squat. Try not to let yourself round, so you want to try and be nice and upright, and stand. And lower and stand. One more, and then up. And now we're going to take the right foot back and lower down into high kneel. So this time left leg's forwards, and we're going to hinge backwards again. So hinging and up. Make sure the pelvis is parallel again. Hinge back, up. Okay, now take the kettlebell in the left hand, and we're going to go up to the ceiling. So right hand flat on the floor, left hand up to the ceiling, and back round, and down, back, let's do one more. Swap sides. So it's in the right hand. We're going to do bottoms up kettlebell press, Keeping the pelvis level, neutral spine, keeping the elbow as close to the body as possible. Trying to keep the rib cage and pelvis in connection, wrist straight. Let's do one more. Bring it down into front rack. And then we're gonna pelvis level, knee tracking second and third toe, curl the back foot under, lean forward and stand. And lower. And stand. Lower. Stand. Lower. Stand. This next one, we're going to push the kettlebell up, down, up, down, up, down, into high kneel. Then we're going to bring this left leg back round and we're going to lower down. So we'll do these again, so what we did before. So we're in this tall oblique sit now, but the opposite side, so it's the right glute that's going to be working. Kettlebell up and we're going to hinge. And down and lower. Nice and slow. Nice and steady, both ways. Try not to land heavily on your knees. And then we're just going to lift and twist. So you're twisting to the right now. So you feel this working in the right butt cheek. And now you're going to hinge and pull that left leg through again, and we're gonna go to stand, back down, take the left leg back, take the right foot forwards, stand, left leg back, right leg back, left leg forwards, hinge, stand up. So we're alternating sides. Do one more each side, making sure that we get pelvis level every time. Last one. Then come back a bit. Put the kettlebell into the sky. One hand, and then you're going to stretch down the opposite way and touch your foot. Look up to the ceiling, look up to the kettlebell. Do 5 each side. Swap sides. Three more. One more. And we're done.